Dan, we're back. Botched Wrestling Podcast on the night of SmackDown, on the night of the face-to-face with Roman and Cody, on the night couple nights after a 3-hour AEW production. I
Yeah,
mean,
preempted by the tournament, right?
yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, episode 20 something or whatever. I'll figure it out in post
Have
editing.
to check again.
Yeah, I need to start writing these down somewhere. But yeah, we're back. I'm Jim. That's Dan. Botched Wrestling Podcast. Big week on the road to WrestleMania. Would you say? We're on the road, Dan.
We've been on the road, but we're really on the road too. We're on the home stretch.
We are.
Right?
Right. Well,
Home
yep.
stretch.
Yeah. I mean, I think after this Roman and Cody promo that I'm waiting for tonight, I think that's when it'll officially feel like the home stretch. I think it's been feeling like it's um miles away for a bit now, right? But it's actually been under 30 days for a while now, and we just keep, you know, like, are we there yet? Like, it feels like that, which is kind of crazy because it's either going to get us super excited for it, or it's going to be kind of like, or like super excited and be like, ah, yeah, this is awesome. So we'll have to see what that is or does. Hopefully, it's good. You know what? I wanted to start with AEW again. 2 podcasts in a row.
I
Yeah,
have a fever.
yeah.
I had a fever dream. What the
Call
hell is going on
Fauci.
here?
Call Fauci. It might be the vaccines, Dan.
Although, then again, I have a feeling you're going to be a little more negative this time than you were last time.
No, not really.
Last week. Okay.
No, I mean, there's some things I'm kind of like, what are we doing? And then, like, there's an outside storyline that I wanted to talk to you about and a couple of questions just to get your thoughts on. But, yeah, I mean, so Dynamite, right? On Wednesday in the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, Canada. Which, to give AEW credit, I think this is only like 12,000 seat venue. I want to say it's not a huge one.
Look it up while you're talking.
Yeah.
Coliseum.
Yeah.
Look it up while you're talking.
All right. Yeah, it's not a huge one. You know, it's not like where they held Forbidden Door. They were close to being sold out, and like actually sold out, not like Tony had to make that up at the press conference afterwards. Sold out. You could just tell when Edge's intro hit and he came down and he turned to the third camera side because they were singing his song, and then he turned back as well, and there was people all over the place, so I mean, I've been talking about it for some time. That's been one of my biggest pet peeves that you heard me rant about with AEW, is that they're picking the wrong size places. I think they need to take more of like an ECW approach to when they're planning these house shows. Apologies, because I figure that will give it more of like a fan impact, right? Like more of just like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be, right? So that's huge. Like, I thought that was big.
7,600 for wrestling format, according to the
Yeah,
website.
and it looked like they were close to being a sellout. I didn't pull it up on Brendan Thurston's or his Twitter, where he puts everything in Excel and then posts it, so it makes people like me that don't want to do all that work a lot happier. But it looked good. Like it looked like it hit everything. I mean, so what was that? The 20 AEW AEW Dynamite on the 20th averaged 800,000 viewers, 0.27 per the 18 to 49. Not bad. I mean,
About what they get. Yeah.
and then Rampage was 541 and 0.18 to 1849. Um,
Probably better than a normal Rampage being a taped Friday night event.
yeah, because it's leading in, right? Like it's so like
Just
having
needing, yeah,
so like having that 2 hours before people like if it's a decent show, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll stay and watch this. There's because let's be honest, like what else is on TV right now? Like if you're a wrestling fan and you're not watching wrestling, there's really not that much else that's on there, right? Like there's not a ton of new television that is occurring right now. Um, so yeah, I mean it's something pretty crazy. Um, I mean, to give AEW a compliment, like I said, like those would be the only type of places that I'm booking the rest of the year. And um, I get you had both Toronto boys on last for Dynamite, but at the same time, like I feel like they can pull that off more than they can get a better showing if they continue to compete in the same arenas and venues that WWE does.
yeah,
Do you agree with that?
yeah. I think so.
Because it feels like it's an ECW crowd, right? Like it's like hardcore wrestling fans, right? Like you don't see like you see some families in there, but you don't see as many as you do at a WWE show, right? Like it's not like that.
Right.
Um, so, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to go through this. Did you catch any of this or no?
I caught some of it, but I
Okay.
didn't watch the show straight through.
Okay. So just to start off, like, I don't know, I could just go through the stuff that occurred and just let you know, and then you could just tell me what you think if you saw it. The whole Adam Cole giving a message to Wardlow,
Yeah,
I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's different.
I don't know. Like, from these videos, don't you feel like they're trying to get back to like an MJF Wardlow type feud, but just switching out MJF for Cole? Because that's what it kind of feels like to me. Like they're just trying to give that type of like environment to it, and I'm sorry, but Cole's not MJF. Like WWE let him walk for a reason. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know. It's just like it's okay, I guess, but it's like I'm not tuning in specifically for that if that makes sense. Like I'm just kind of okay, which kind of stinks because um I think I think if you build Wardlow properly or you use him in the right way, I think you can get something unexpected out of him that like the crowd or like the people at home like won't like oh I didn't know he had that in him, right? Like that type of thing.
Right.
Like he's a big athletic guy. He seems to be able to do a lot in the ring. Like this makes complete sense. But it's like it's kind of like we're going into time machine here, and it's like, well, MJF's not here. Let's see if we can pass this along as Cole being MJF, and it's like like this isn't working. Like you have Cole sitting in a library cutting these promos in like a snakeskin jacket. Okay. So how is Wardlow supposed to be afraid of you at all? You're not even in the same place. Like, what are we doing? Like, at least come out and have him attacked, or like cut the promos to his face, so you get that environment. This whole like off screen thing. I mean, Cole was never the best at promos beforehand, right? If you're saying the guys that are out now wrestling in all three companies, so WWE, TNA, and AEW, you're not gonna say that Cole is your top 10 promo person, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like for this to get across or get over, I think Cole has to be there in person. Now, if there's a reason why Cole's not there, I don't know. Like, then what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Well, I think he's still kind of hurt, right? Like that ankle is a
Well,
much
which
bigger
is fine,
problem than I
but
think. You know.
he's in the boot, but he still has everybody that's in the stable, right? Like, he's still the guy in charge of the stable, right? So, like, he can't just walk out as bait and then have Wardlow just get bum rushed or something, or like screw him over. I don't know. I just, I don't know. Like even when Adam Cole was at NXT and they called him up, I felt like he faded fast on the main roster, and now like that he's not the tag team partner of MJF. I'm just like, I'm good. What else is on? Like, and it's kind of crappy because it's like, um, you know, I would hope for it to be good because I feel like they both can be good if they're both put in the right environment. I just don't think that environment is against each other, if that makes sense. You know. So last night we also saw tensions between Willow and Mercedes Monet. Um, I mean, I'm all for that again. Um, it's cool. Like, I would watch them go at it again. I would rather watch them go at it than Cole and Wardlow. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean they had a good thing before in
yeah,
New Japan.
yeah, and that's where Mercedes had that fluke accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't know if you catch that last podcast she did that was like 2 hours where she basically talked about everything, including WWE. But she stated when she broke that foot or did whatever she did to the foot or the ankle, they first thought that was going to be like a career ender, which is pretty crazy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that would have been that would have been terrible. So it just showed these two giving each other a cold shoulder during their backstage segment later on in the show, um, which I'm all for. Continue to build that story. Um, I'm all for it. Anytime you can bring in the good do Japan stuff and continue to tell that story across the pond over here, cool. Let's do it. Fans will love it, and I think that story between them two can really give AEW's women's division a good jolt. You know what I mean? Just to have them two like go at it 2 or 3 times, like strong, hard fought, like just pounding the piss out of each other. That we saw when it was like Charlotte and Rhea. It was just that good. So that's always good for competition at any end. TNA, WWE, AEW, like just throwing that storylines out and about. You know, that's awesome.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
what we were fans when Kingston got all three titles, right? We were like, this is cool,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We were waiting for him to get a title, and we had a long discussion about what title made sense. The TNT title didn't make sense for him, just for his character, and then it's like, but he wasn't ready for the world title, like so a New Japan title slash this. We talked about whether or not the international belt might work, right? The one that Cassidy had for so long. But the Continental Classic belt, I think, made sense. Like, and I don't know, did you see, just because we're talking about it, did you see, like, the clarification Tony made about that belt?
Um, The Continental
either
title?
today or yesterday.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't catch anything from Tony.
So that belt is going to have to be. They're going to do the Continental Classic every year, and that belt is going to have to be put up for the Classic regardless. So the person carrying the belt at the time of the Classic, they're not necessarily stripped of the belt. Well, I guess they are kind of stripped of the belt, and they're automatically in the tournament, but they have to win the tournament to keep it.
So they're just kind of like a placeholder right now.
Yeah, so it's like I mean, they can for a year.
Yeah,
It
I
can
mean,
change hands. Yeah, yeah. For a year, it'll change hands, but then after that, it's like, um,
all right. Well, let's get down to brass tacks because this kind of pissed me off.
okay.
No, we're both fans of the 83 Weeks podcast, right?
Yes.
Religiously, like we love it.
Yep.
Pop a couple Cialises and just sit back and enjoy it. Uh,
Luchas.
they, they didn't sign on as a sponsor yet, so I'm just going
Neither
with.
did Cialis.
Then what's the stuff I just took in my cabinet?
That's your own personal issue.
Oh, anyways, um, there was a one big point that I disagreed with Derek, was that he said Eddie's outfit looked like he was a Jiffy Lube mechanic.
Oh, because he wore the different kind of pants. Yeah.
But it's Eddie. Like, he tells you he's from the hood, he's from the project. Like, this is what he's always fought in. He just brings in a jersey.
Not those. Those pants were different. That he fought in this week, they're much different than what he normally wears.
That I must have missed that. But
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a picture. But they.
oh, the black and yellow ones.
Yeah, they almost. I actually, when I saw them, I thought it did look weird because it's not what I used to seeing them in.
No.
I think it was. They're more of what you would wear in Japan.
Okay, so he's fighting Okada. So that still goes off my point. It's like, it kind of makes sense. He's fighting Okada, and he's dressed in the way he would fight over in Japan, like he's done it before. I don't think it's really that big of a deal that Eric made that big of a stink out of it and said that Eddie doesn't have it. But that crowd loves Eddie. Like, Eddie's that kid group that grew up watching wrestling, that he said a handful of times, wrestling has saved his life. And he grew up to be a wrestler because that's all he ever did was fight everybody. And it's like, that's why fans love him. He's the everyday guy. Like he said before, like he should be dead somewhere, dead or in jail. Like he shouldn't be holding 3 titles. So, and I know it's been a bit, but is it like, what are we doing already putting a title on Okada? I hate it.
Doesn't bother me.
I hate it.
It doesn't bother me.
He's been here for what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, but it's not like he didn't. I mean, he came from somewhere, Jim. He was a top guy in New Japan.
And he hasn't proved that he's a top guy here.
I mean,
go at a top guy.
I don't know. I agree to disagree on that one because like this goes back to our conversation last week about like where he lies, where a lot of these guys lie in the hearts and minds of AEW fans who are typically much more in tune to the independents and New Japan. So he's viewed as a top guy, quote unquote, worldwide for a lot of that audience.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, so is Tony's drug dealer. But like, he doesn't get thrown on that screen this frequently. I just have a problem with him like coming in 3 weeks. He has the batch with Eddie, and then Eddie has to drop that title. I could understand it more if it was for the New Japan Strong title. That would make sense to me. But like, I don't know. So that's just kind of my gripe with it. The match itself, like, I hope Tony saw that he didn't sign Primetime Okada. Like, unless Okada's just saving it in the tank for when he has to go against Ospreay and Kenny and and Bryan Danielson, because it kind of like it wasn't a match that like you're like I got to go back and watch that like you do on like a lot of Okada's things. Like it was just kind of. But like here's the thing too, like that crowd wasn't treating Okada like a heel. But after the match, like Eddie told him, like he carried that title with respect. So if you're really trying to get Okada to be a heel, they're not on Saturday night, but like the next time they have a show, like have him just walk into the arena, like dragging that title or something. Do you know what I mean? Like just force the fact that Okada is now a heel, and he's not good guy Okada that you saw protecting New Japan for all those years. Like him just standing with the Bucks, that really just doesn't give him the push to be the heel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I tend to think this story's not done either. Like,
no, I don't either. But
I think
it goes back to Eddie. Yeah, but I think for them to get Okada in that direction of like the crowd being like, oh God, I hate this guy. Like he has to do something like that with the title, or just like put it in a bag and like don't ever carry it or like drag the title, or like shine the title or something in front of it. Like just something to like, provoke the I'm the bad guy. Because right now the crowd's like, oh shit, it's Okada. Like this is crazy. He's here still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely better than the Cole and Wardlow thing, which I'll probably say I was my least favorite thing on the card, or in this show. But I just thought they could do a little bit more at that. But like we both said, story doesn't seem to be done. But supposedly it's Okada versus Pac for the first challenge, so that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's actually going to be a really good match.
I do too. I think there's a potential Pac runs circles around Okada though, so I think they got to be careful with that, because we'll just have to see. Swerve and Joe traded some shots at each other, and then Don Callis came out, and then it's Swerve and Tashida, the winner facing Joe. Just give Swerve the title already, and let's call it a day. Like, just put the title on Swerve. And also, I hate to watch the Butcher get his beatings in. I really do. And it's probably because he's a Buffalo guy through and through. But I really hate when he has to take his beatings, man. Like,
always the two of them together. Too.
Yeah, and it's usually pretty bad. But yeah, so, but I mean, I was thinking about this, like, when Swerve came out and said he plans to choke Joe with the chain, but the chain's not big enough for Joe's fat head or something. It's like, I think you could have got, like, more of, like, a jab in there than, like, just saying Joe has a fat head. Like, just, like, you see what The Rock and Cody are saying to each other, right? Like, just stick that jab in further. Because I think Swerve is a guy that could compete with, like, what's going on at WWE with the title on. I really do. Joe, this is just Joe. Like, this is consistent Joe. He shows up in a suit. He has the title. He's the company guy. You're not going to see anything flashy. He's just going to talk his crap. He's going to choke you out. And he's going to say, bring on the next guy. That's just who he is, right? Like, that's been Joe his whole career. That's why he ends up bouncing the company to company, because he's consistency, but he's not the guy to grab the guy in charge and be like, we got to keep that guy on the roster, right? Like, what Joe does, you could probably find 4 or 5 other guys that can do what Joe does, right? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I'm glad they're still going at that. I I really hope Swerve gets the title soon. Just because I know he's gonna put out a banger of a mixtape afterwards once he gets the title. So Swerve dropping a new album once he gets the title, I'm all for it. Um, Hook looked pretty good against Jericho, but I don't know.
Jericho is just an interesting,
SpongeBob looking person.
well, just an interesting character these days because he hasn't really been in any kind of storyline. I told you like at Revolution he was just part of that scramble match which
Yeah,
just didn't make any sense. He didn't look good in it. Like I just think he's like, I don't know. He should have just had one good storyline to kind of retire on, I think, and he may have
overdid it.
passed his window to do that. Possibly.
Agreed. No, and like even if he wanted to do that one good storyline, and then just help everything backstage, right? Like he's the perfect guy to put in front of Tony, so all of the wrestlers have to go to Jericho, and then Jericho can have that discussion with Tony because he's been all over the place, right? He's seen why WCW failed. He knows how. He should know how to avoid that. As long as he's not getting in trouble on trying to hold his own casting couch situations that we've been hearing about. But and I got a feeling that like he's gonna be probably next week. Jericho's gonna be as like Hook's my next protege, right? Like, and Hook has been getting better in the ring, but like putting Hook with Jericho, you know what I mean? I would love to see if Darby was healthy, I would love to see Hook go after Darby. Or if you bring Sammy Guevara back, I would love to see Hook just pound Sammy for like a month and a half. Like he comes back as a heel, the crowd hates him, and Hook's just there destroying him every week. I would love that just to build that up again. But yeah, Hook looked good. Um, I just don't know what to expect from Jericho, and that's kind of sad. Like I kind of feel bad just watching him out there now. Like,
Yeah.
like it's tough because like we grew up and he was like, oh, he's awesome. Y2J, awesome. Like, and now it's kind of like, mm. So, uh, I only watched Dynamite, so the main event of this was Adam Copeland, aka Edge.
Rated R superstar Adam Copeland.
Rated R
Still allowed to call him
superstar.
that.
Yeah.
Still allowed to call him that.
Versus his Canadian brother, his Eskimo brother, maybe. And then, whoa, and an I Quit match. Whoa, wait, hey, Dan, stop spreading rumors now, boy. Um, it was cool. Obviously, you're gonna get a pop from it. Both Toronto guys, right? The perfect thing to put on last. Um, they loved Edge's song. They kept singing it, and his song is so easy for the crowd just to keep going along with too, right?
Right.
Like so, it fit perfectly. From the time the bell rang, they were going at it, and the Rated R superstar, aka you know what, aka Adam Copeland, got his moment in his home to end Dynamite. Like I just, uh, it told the story. There's a lot of violence. I thought it was kind of slowed down and dumb when Edge dragged him to the penalty box, gave Christian to put a Bruins jersey on, and Edge went 12 people down the line to get a Toronto jersey. I'm thinking, like, if you're Christian, before you put that Bruins jersey on, like, don't you try and choke your opponent with it, like, when he turns away?
Well, yeah. So here's what I thought in that moment with that whole
Like, and
thing.
and like he threw it on his head, and then all of a sudden you see Christian like trying to put his arms
Yeah.
through, and I'm like, don't you try and at least choke him with it first, and then get pounded? Like
I
it was
think
just
it was supposed to be, I assume, Edge was supposed to force it onto him, and he didn't really do that, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah. He just
he's
threw it over his
supposed to
head,
force
right?
it
Yeah,
over him, yeah, and he
or to
didn't.
like
But like
stick his arms in it so he couldn't get his arms through.
at
Yeah,
least put yeah,
yeah,
and then Christian, it'd be easier to put your arms to the
yeah.
sleeves than to try to take it off, but he didn't.
No, he just threw it on him.
Obviously, the whole point of it was they wanted to simulate a hockey fight between the Leafs and the Bruins. Big rivalry there. But
Really?
um,
I didn't know you were a big hockey guy. You a big hockey guy? Wow.
I
Big
just know
hockey
that's
guy.
a pretty big rivalry.
Wow, big hockey guy. Hashtag big hockey guy.
What is with you?
Yeah, no, yes. So that was like the only part that like caught me off guard, and I'm like, somebody screwed up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but
Edge, I think.
oh yeah, for sure, right? But it was probably the adrenaline, right? Like the fact that like the crowd was still singing his song. Like he probably just like he was probably jumping through his skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it did what it was supposed to. It was a solid addition. Um, I think like I said, the only thing I didn't like was the Cole and Wardlow feature. So and I think I was kind of like brought into it too, just because it kept showing the crowd and it looked full. So it looked like they had a full arena, right? Like everything you saw on Twitter too, like it looked like it full. So like I would say that was a pretty solid episode. Like that's what they need to keep doing more of, because I felt like they did their own thing, right? They
Yeah.
they didn't try and take shots at WWE. They didn't try and do like any WWE type like storylines or matches. They just said we're in Toronto. We have our two Toronto guys going on last. We're just gonna do what we do, and like I think that's just what they need to do more of like every week. Like I want AEW to like continue like this because as growing up wrestling fans, like one of the biggest things we always talked about in school is like, well, what would it be like if like WCW was still here, or like, well, what if ECW was still here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you always had those like flashbacks of like, well, who would be where, or like, how could we do this? Do you know what I'm saying? So like, just the fact like of just having a second company, like competition helps everybody, right? Like that's
Oh yeah.
so, and it helps the wrestlers. It helps like we were talking about it before we got on the air. Like, how good has Raw been the past couple of weeks, right? Because they're just pulling out stuff they haven't done before on a Raw, or they don't usually do. So it's kind of cool just to see like WWE said we're just gonna tell our stories, and AEW's like we're just gonna do our thing, which is let our wrestlers go, right? I believe there was a couple of like those backstage interview things. They just need to stop it, and they not because Renee is that not good. I think she's one of the best wrestling personalities out there with the mic in her hand. I just feel a lot of the times when AEW does those things backstage, they feel awkward or they don't really make sense to what's going on in the rest of the show, right? Because they don't really have a storyline going when they do these things. It's just people popping off. So like it's kind of like, okay, these people are popping off, but they're not even involved in anything tonight. It's like, who gives a shit at that point, right? Like, all right, you're gonna wrestle 3 weeks from now. All right, I'll try and tune in then. Like, get lost, buddy. So, yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts? Like, I know I did a lots of talking there, but did you think it was good from what you saw?
I mean, I thought it was okay. It's again, it hasn't. It's been the same old story for us, like for me, and I think for you too. Generally, like there's nothing that's really drawing me. It's not must see TV. It's not
Right,
something I really sat and said I have to make sure I see Dynamite this week, right?
right.
parts of it were good, parts of it weren't good. Um, what I did see, and I wanted to bring up because I think you said everything that needed to be said about the show itself. Um, the Did you see the tweet? I think it might have been Brandon Thurston. Somebody tweeted out saying that this really seemed like a potential, basically, pilot run to see if Dynamite should go to 3 hours
Yeah,
and they should scrap Rampage.
Yeah, so Brandon. Yeah, and Brandon actually asked him about that on a July call. Like, is it possible to see AEW do a third hour of Dynamite? I mean,
that was interesting.
It seemed to work, right? Like,
well, it's definitely better than I think. My guess is, like, what do I know, right? What do either of us really know? But my guess is that
we know a lot, but go on. That's why we have a podcast.
Good point. Is that it Rampage just isn't a great investment. And I know I've said before, it's possible that Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't care because it's just Friday night at 10 o'clock, and it does probably okay for its time slot.
Yeah, because there's nothing else on anymore, right?
Right. But part of the reason, and we talked about it, Rampage had, good numbers with the lead-in and all that stuff, but also probably because nobody knew the outcome of Rampage. 90% of the people that might watch Rampage
already know
heard about what happened, right? And you're only watching it if you want to see the value of, you heard, like, this match was a banger of a match, you got to see it, But otherwise, what are you really watching it for,
No, agreed. Agreed.
So, that's one thing I think about it. So I think they might be smart to put Dynamite as a 3-hour show, get rid of Rampage, and they can keep Collision for now and see what they're doing with it. But, maybe they're also thinking in the future, like, Dynamite moves, with a new TV deal. Maybe Dynamite moves nights. Maybe Collision ends up moving nights, because of deals and stuff like that. And this is a good run for it,
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. I don't think it'd be the worst thing they could do. I mean, I never think to tune into Rampage. I never think about it.
No.
Like, to be honest, it seems like a waste of time. And it's Friday at 10 o'clock. Typically, SmackDown's been really good. I'm not sitting here thinking to myself, yeah, maybe I should watch Dynamite tonight.
Yeah, right. No, you're spot on. Yeah, and if anything, it's like, so if they get that TV deal and they get to stay with Warner Brothers Discovery, what I would do, just put Rampage on Max to stream it every Friday. Don't have it on a TV. Just have it on there. I mean, I forgot to text you today when I was off and I was just flipping through Max. Bellator had a Belfast pay-per-view show on today at 12:30 our time.
Right.
So it's like, if they're already putting Bellator stuff on there.
I saw that because I was watching college basketball using Max.
Yeah. So like, that's the perfect, right?
Like Western Kentucky and Marquette when it was still a close game.
Yeah. So like, I think Rampage could succeed better there, because I think there's going to be a time where they do look at the numbers for Rampage being on live TV and be like, all right, we've tried it this long enough. And it's like, we either throw this into Dynamite to have 3 hours, or like, we stick with 2 hours of Dynamite and Rampage is gone. And I just think if you could throw that on there, like, I think that's just Tony can say, yeah, look, we have a show that's on live TV every week, and we also have a show that streams every week. There's no other promotion around that can say they do both, right? And it's just a feather he can put in his cap, like,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't if they could do Dynamite like this every week and start like drawing people in. It's going to be slowly, right? Because I feel like they've had a huge drop off, and I feel like that huge drop off is MJF, right? Because I feel like as soon as they say that MJF is back, it's going to be they might break a million for that show.
Oh, easily.
I think so.
Yeah, easily.
And I think if they don't, that's a troubling issue.
Yeah, I think they would in a heartbeat, because who wouldn't? I mean, I'm tuning into that show immediately. Like, that's a show I don't want to miss.
Right. So I think that's what they need for sure. Yeah, so I mean, like you said, you thought I was going to be negative.
I did.
You're welcome.
I did think you were going to be negative.
I've been so positive after I shaved off the beard.
You shed all that
dirtiness.
All
that dirty.
For AEW.
All that dirtiness.
It was only like 4 or 5 episodes ago, well, 3 episodes ago, really, where you're like, you at one point in each episode you would say to me, so Dan, anything you want to say about that Spot Monkey promotion you still like to watch?
I mean,
you have not said that in quite some time.
I still think it's probably closer to a month, Dan.
Okay.
Jeez. Give me some credit here.
Time flies when you're watching AEW, huh?
Yeah, like a snail. But like I felt like they booked this one correctly, right? Like there wasn't too much of that stuff. Like there's just enough of that stuff, but then like the wrestling that we expect to see, but then some other stuff that's in between thrown in as well. Like I felt like they did, like this was the ideal booking. And if they come out and tell me that like Tony did not book this show, I'd be like, oh, that's why it worked. You know what I mean? Like if they just came out and said Tony had help, I'd be like, oh, that makes 100% sense of like why I like this show. But like I don't think Tony can keep the consistency, because I feel like in next week, like we might be friggin' seeing Kingo versus Hobbs or something, and we're gonna be like, why?
Yeah, that always happens.
Right?
That's one of the
why?
Worst parts about it.
Right,
yeah,
but that's what.
have...
Right. So it's like, but I didn't feel like they did that here. Like everything kind of rolled together, I guess I would say, for once. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so there you go, Dan. There you go. I was positive. You're welcome.
It's very good. It's two episodes in a row.
Dan, I don't hate wrestling. I don't hate any wrestling. I've watched Sexy Eddie.
I never said... Yeah, but you love Sexy
Eddie. I do love Sexy Eddie. I can't lie. I'm probably a Sexy Eddie stand at this point, is what they would call me.
You definitely are.
Hey, okay. You're the one that had to go shower afterwards, weirdo. Yep, that's what you told me. Now, do you want to hear me rant about something, and then you can jump in too?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go straight to WWE?
No, I want to hear you rant, and I'll jump in, and then I have one other thing I want to, that I thought you were going to bring up when you said you had a non-storyline story to talk about, so I'll bring it up.
No, that's a good point. So my non-wrestling, I guess, I don't know, like it makes sense for AEW, but it's not more of, it's another backstage problem, right, that we've been hearing about this week, and not just once, like we've heard about 3 or 4 places talking about it. The rest of the AEW women are pissed about Mercedes' paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
They're pissed about how she was basically allowed to go doing whatever she wanted to do. And they're pissed about how she just showed up and treated everybody.
Yeah.
Are we looking at Punk 2.0? Like, is this gonna get screwed up?
Um.
Because the biggest
I
thing
don't
was
think
like
so.
there was so much outside stuff that got out about all this, and it's like, why are we letting all this get out? Like, we realize what happened with Punk. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I. I don't think so. I just don't think so because I'm not sure. Like, it really comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I don't see her starting like backstage fights and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I
But
think
it's just stupid though that it's already like it feels like it already kind of went sour. And she's been there 2 weeks, right?
yeah, but what I mean also too, what have we heard from Sean on this particular issue?
He said that her paycheck
Because a
did get
lot of
out
this
there.
came from Meltzer, right?
A couple of
About the
sources
like,
and Uncle Dave, but
yeah,
I believe Sean said that the story about her paycheck being out there was a thing. Like that people are like, you
yeah.
spent this much on her.
Um, so like the only thing I think on that is like I wonder if some of the backstage stuff is just Meltzer being Meltzer, you know?
Yeah,
Did he talk to,
the
you know,
executives,
well,
the
I
elite,
don't doubt.
elite.
No, no, no. I don't doubt that there's somebody back there that's not happy about it. All he needs to do is talk to one woman wrestler and tell me some of the backstage people feel this way. He could have been talking about Abaddon for all we know, right? Like, was he talking to Britt Baker, where that might matter more? Was he
That
talking
would
to
be
Julia Hart,
hysterical. That would be
right? Like,
hysterical if that was Brit.
right. Was it Chris Statlander, right? Like, for all we know, it was, somebody in the wardrobe department that says they overheard stuff. And for what it's worth, let's not pretend that we haven't seen this stuff because that AEW backstage show they had showed all of the women wrestlers and their anger towards the situation with Thunder Rosa at
Yeah.
one time. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it is true. What I'm wondering is how reliable is it that it's a big backstage issue? But you know, the contract part, yeah, that might be a problem. I'm sure there are people that are sitting there. Look, I've been trying to help you build this company from the ground up from day one, and I get paid peanuts. And she came in and whatever. But in fairness to that statement, you did an exercise with me last week, and we basically put her as a top 5 wrestler in the company, men and women.
Yeah. At least top 5. At least. Depending on
So
the week.
if that is true, then she should be
She.
roughly top 5 money, right?
No, yeah, I mean, it all comes down to be like the whole saying that they have, right? Like, be who you can afford to be. Like, that pretty much sums up this whole situation.
Yeah.
Like, if Tony said, here's a blank check, it's already signed. Go cash it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, my fear is I just don't want this to distract them, right? Because I feel like this could be a huge boost to the women's division, and I just don't want this to be like a distraction. Because we've
Yeah.
already seen how Tony deals with distractions, and it's not good. It's not good. Um,
No, I don't disagree with you. I just wonder too a little bit of how bad it is. I think it might be bad, or it has the potential to be bad. I don't know that I would say it's another CM Punk though, because I don't know that
I just don't.
it, it
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
yeah, I just don't know if it's a situation where there's going to be so much animosity backstage with somebody who's coming in that thinks they're going to, you know, run the company, or in theory, part of his contract was to do business, Um, I just don't see it being the same, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, time will tell for sure.
No. I mean, after talking about it with you, I think that's where my fear is headed. Like, I don't want it to turn into that. Is what I guess I'm trying to say. I don't think they're on the same level yet. I just have a fear that Tony didn't learn how to nip this all in the bud from the get-go beforehand, right? Like,
Yeah.
And it's like, this is all stuff that you should have been like, oh, this is kind of what started with everybody with Punk. And now we're kind of like hitting some similar path of like, take care of this right now. You know what I'm saying? So I just hope it doesn't turn out to be that way, because I think she could do a hell of a job for them. And I think it's a big boost. And I know she did not want to come back to WWE right now. And it's just good to see her back, because, she's a great talent. Like you said, she's probably top 5 in men and women in the company. So, did you have anything to rant about? Or you said you had a storyline?
Not to rant about it. I wanted your opinion on some of the stuff that came out today about Jungle Boy Jack Perry.
Oh,
the scapegoat.
That was my first thing to complain about. So let's go.
Oh, okay. That was the last thing I had with AEW, but I find
Yes.
this story incredibly interesting. It only caught my eye because Conrad Thompson actually replied to a tweet that was, or quote tweeted, a tweet that was saying how Jack Perry has had no communication with Tony, and everything he's doing in New Japan is not sanctioned by Tony, and he's just doing it, and he wanted a release and he wasn't granted it. And Conrad Thompson, who is pretty connected, especially on the AEW side, he's
everywhere.
I think he's connected in both companies pretty well, but he only
all three at this point. He talks about all three.
Really ever, but he downplays his WWE stuff.
Yes.
I think is because he knows if he overplays it, he won't have those connections.
Correct. Yeah, he's being protective of it, right?
Yeah, and he quote tweeted, and it was a meme that said, it was a guy like with his head turned going, "You sure?" So I thought that was funny, because I'm like, well, this guy probably knows exactly what's going on with the Jack Perry situation, and is kind of sitting here going like, there's no way that he's allowed to do what he's doing in New Japan while under contract at AEW without the approval of Tony Khan. It would be breach of contract. So,
well, it depends if he already had that New Japan thing in his contract prior. Because he's still on his current contract, he's just suspended.
But is he? Because that was the other thing. They were talking about that he's suspended, and Conrad's response was to that too. So, I mean, is he actually suspended, or is he just not being used for all this time? I mean, the story was that... the story that came out was that Tony's still pissed at him for losing CM Punk. If that's true, then why didn't they both get fired? That's my thought on it.
Yeah.
If you really are that mad that you think Jack Perry effed up your CM Punk situation, and then Punk made it worse by the fight and whatever else he did, why aren't you canning both of them and canceling the contracts of both guys?
Yeah, no, that's crossed my head too, because I read that prior article like a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think, that said Tony's that pissed off at Jungle Boy, which I wouldn't blame Tony if he was. I think
wouldn't either, but
if I had...
would have fired.
Yeah, but then you gotta pay him for his contract, right? So I would just put him on the bench.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Think it was a breach? You think you could get away with it
Yeah,
being a breach?
I think he fires him for the same reason he fired CM Punk, right? Like a breach of contract. You go through whatever you went through with CM Punk, and you're basically saying your fight backstage and the actions you took backstage caused hostile work environment, whatever you want to call it. So we're canceling your contract, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's
No, he probably would have gotten litigated similar to Punk's
yeah,
sister did and all that. So he probably would have paid him something. But my guess is he didn't buy out his full contract in CM Punk's case. He probably gave him some money plus the ability to return, you know, get out from the non-compete. It would have been the same with Jungle Boy. And Jungle Boy probably would have taken even less money just for the ability to do something.
yeah. To be honest,
But also, if he's suspended, I really don't believe that he would be allowed to go to New Japan. But I could be wrong.
no. I mean, I think that all depends if that was in the contract previously, right? Like, I don't like.
Yeah, I
To
can't
me,
imagine that
I
their
would have
contracts do that though.
I would have been petty about the whole thing and just put him on the bench and said you're just gonna ride it out because I would be more pissed off that I lost Punk because of him. But I feel like it would have been another thing that like people could personally attack Tony for if Jungle Boy was also fired, and just I feel like how the wrestlers were handling it at the time and those that are in charge, the executives or whatever they call themselves. I feel like with Jungle Boy still being there, it was easier for them all just to say it was Punk's fault and just to place it all on Punk that way to kind of save some face. I think they can't do that if Jungle Boy gets fired. Um, I put the truth from anything Jungle Boy says on the same level as Meltzer. I don't care. His. This report says, according to Perry, he didn't hear from AEW. Had Tony Khan for 2 months, following All In at London's Wembley Stadium. Perry said he never texted to say he was sorry and told Khan's attorneys he would not initiate first contact. Right there, you would not initiate first contact,
Yeah.
but you're technically the thing that set off this explosion. Like, and then Khan finally set up an in-person before Full Gear in Los Angeles, where they discussed plans to bring him back last December. The report says that the plans for Perry's return to AEW were scrapped when CM Punk made his return at WWE at Survivor Series. So why? So they scrapped it because of why? Because of Punk at a different company? Like, that makes no sense if that's what Perry's telling people. No sense.
Right.
So he could stay over there, but like he's not going to be able to get away with the stuff he pulled at AEW. If he tries that over there, on like a guy that's been there for 40, 50 years, they're going to shoot on him and snap his ankle or his leg so bad. Like, just because that's how they teach you over there. Like, and especially if he's training in the dojos and everything. Like, or do Japan as a way for Tony just to be like, get out of my face. I don't want to deal with you.
Well, that and too, like his whole thing in New Japan is like, he allegedly tore up his contract
Yeah.
in the
When he
ring,
showed up,
right?
yeah.
Like, yeah. And his whole thing is that he's the scapegoat because like they're playing into the real life story with whatever he's doing over there. Um
Yes, that is correct.
that's why I don't believe for 1 second it's because he's doing this rogue. Like,
No.
plus also, I guess I wouldn't know this for sure, but I don't think New Japan would do that and potentially screw up their relationship with AEW by bringing a guy in that is under contract and doesn't have the approval. Because I thought we heard this before. most of these guys, their contracts with AEW have the ability for them to go out and take dates, but they have to be approved by the company.
Correct.
And the company generally is just approving a lot of them. So I think he would have to have approval, and I don't think he has it.
I just,
I assume he does have it because I don't think New Japan does it to Tony and the company, and I don't think that AEW stands for it if they were allowing it without their approval.
yeah, I mean, I could see that, right? And I could see that as a thing being Tony saying, just get away from me. And just sending him over there.
Yeah.
And hopefully he grows up over there. You know what I mean? Like, that whole thing. Like, just get all that crap out of your system. Come back when you feel you're been mature enough, and I'll keep checking in with people over there. Other than that, I don't want anything to do with you.
Right.
Yeah, so that was one of my rant things. So it's good to see we're still on the same page when it comes to complaining.
Just a weird, just a
It just,
weird
yeah.
story too.
Yeah.
Just, like,
well, and I just
it's insignificant too.
well, that's why like I hate it keeps taking up so much press. I'm just like, go away. Like, go back and wrestle David Arquette at GCW all over again. Like, go do that. That's where you belong, because you can't handle this. Now on to WWE. One of these rants have to deal with WWE.
Oh.
Well, it's a WWE legend.
The fever dream continues.
WWE legend that just won't also shut up and go away.
Oh, Bill? Is it Bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Bill. It is Bill. Some Japanese girl beat my undefeated streak, and people just start using my spear. Links it to issues with Triple H as he's Vince McMahon's son-in-law.
Using my spear is so funny because it's like, I don't know. Roman obviously uses it, but he's been using it since the beginning.
Brock has a couple times.
Yeah, but like, and Edge was using the spear for as long as he's been around too. But other than that, like I know some guys do spears as just moves, but nobody else uses it as a finisher that I can think of, right? Who uses it as a finisher other than Roman? And Roman doesn't even necessarily use it as a finisher all that much. Like, Edge and Roman, that was all I can think of.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find a list on pro wrestling fandom, because they usually have something about it. Rhino, he called it gore.
And he's been doing that since his time. Like,
yeah.
Maybe it was influenced by Goldberg, but for God's sakes, like, Cody uses the pedigree now.
You know? Bobby Lashley, he used to do it back in the day.
Okay. Right, but another guy that's been doing it before Bill came to WWE, at least, right? Like, he might have been doing it. I'm sure he was doing it in TNA.
Supposedly, Tackshaw Jim Duggan used to do it, but his was more of like a shoulder tackle, they called it.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that for sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, this is just CTE gone wrong. Like, you know, and, like, the sad part is, once again, I think it's another instance of somebody thinking that they're a lot bigger than they actually are. And I blame the WWE show Rivals, because they already did one on them, and I wouldn't have. And let's not forget, he wasn't undefeated at WCW because he lost a couple of dark matches.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a historian of the sport, Dan. I mean, what do you want me to do? IQ over 100. What do you want me to do?
I get it, but also it's like, yeah, and the Royal Rumble doesn't really wait 2 minutes in between every entrant.
No, but I'm just telling you, Dan, I'm just...
He also didn't win as many as they said. Like, they kept just kind of fabricating the number every week.
Yeah.
But also, like, I mean, do we even have to talk about, like, also, like, we're in 2024. Like, this is really something you're bitching about, is that your streak got beat by a girl? Like, what? You mean another professional wrestler?
Yeah.
And really, what was Jade's streak in AEW? Like, she had a streak too. Was it better than Gilbert? Jesus Christ.
Gilbert.
Like, I just, like, I'm sitting here going, like, you really just called Asuka, who you couldn't even pronounce her name, you really just called Asuka just a girl? Like, what the hell?
So, Jade had a streak of 61. Goldberg had 173 and no losses.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Bro, I guarantee he can't even count to 173. I think right around 50 or 60, it probably gets a real murky for him.
Mm-hmm.
But if for anyone that didn't see the quote or hear the quote and is tuned in, a girl beat my undefeated streak. Goldberg said, I can't even remember. Asuka was how he originally said it. WrestleZone actually spelled it Asuka, which they're giving him the benefit of the doubt, which they should never do, is her name, and she is some Japanese girl. She came over with a legendary history, first of all, and not a company that just folded because somebody you didn't want to lose to Scott Steiner. Let's not talk about that, Bill. They touted her as being the one to have the longest winning streak, and it just so happened that it culminated when I got there. And that it just so happened every single wrestler uses a spear in their moves, right? Pretty ironic that that happened when I got there, right? That's how they do it. When asked if something happened when he got to go to WWE that caused the company to want to change the way he was presented, Goldberg pointed to the fact that he had heat with Triple H as the catalyst for it all. The fact I didn't get along with Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, aka Vince's son-in-law, Goldberg said, I think had everything to do with it when I got there.
Whatever, man.
Yeah, I mean,
He just, the first thing I thought when I read it was like, man, I was like, who's taking his interview tips from Bret Hart? Like, jeez.
well, and here he goes on to say, I think a lot of that between Hunter and myself was real. Goldberg admitted we had an interaction when I was at WCW leading the charge in New York at a press event. I had heard he you do all the behind scenes, right? So the Click and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, they were all his buddies to the end. So I hurt myself and knew that some people that were friends that worked with me talking to him when he was working at WWE. And he made a comment about how I was at home, and I remember it like yesterday. From that second, he said I was tanking it or faking it or something, and I said I wasn't there for demise of WCW, or how could I? From then on, I wanted to eat that guy's dash. I wanted to rip his face off. So we had a confrontation prior to signing at WWE. Then ironically, we were represented by the same agent. So it made the situation quite uncomfortable once I signed with WWE. Let's just say that. Goldberg would decline to comment on what happened at the event in New York between himself and Triple H. Go away. Go away. Like, so, I don't know. I'm just tired of Bill. I hope they don't put him in the game. If they do, I hope they take him out of the game. I hope his son gets cut from Colorado University just because his dad's a jerk. Like, I'm just over him. I'm just, like, why you have to stick your head back in here? So, but after all our complaining, you know what time it is on SmackDown, brother?
It's promo time.
Put those ones up.
No way.
Oh, put those ones up. Family above all. Put those ones up.
No, I will not acknowledge the tribal chief. I'm ready for the tribal chief to go away.
Pretty good SmackDown. I mean, I know you were flipping back and forth. LA Knight got arrested for attacking AJ Styles. Did you catch that? Yeah, they did that. LA Knight drove to his house and attacked him. So that's cool. I think LA Knight was driving a Jeep. You can do better than that, LA Knight. We had Ray versus Santos. Santos got the 1-2-3 because of that dirty Dom, which I'm just. And Dom wore the green and purple mask, which I kind of like, but it's on Dom. We had a little bit of a spat between Naomi and Bianca behind stage. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller versus the OC. Austin Theory and Grayson got the 1-2-3. They will be in Mania for the ladder match. We had Naomi versus Io Sky. Winner Io. Bianca came out to help Naomi after she was getting pounded by Damage Control. That's what they're still called, right? Mm-hmm. Damage Control. It was good to have a Tiffany Stratton sighting. After that, she was walking around backstage and making fun of Naomi. So, can we get Tiffany Stratton back in the ring, please? Because it's been 2 or 3 weeks. Stop hiding her. Tiffy time. We had the Street Profits versus the Authors of Pain, which I've been noticing this now. I don't know if this is like a creative change, but so like a tag team that comes out with like their other part of their stable, right? The stable hasn't been walking them down anymore. Like they've been walking out to right where like the crowd starts, like on the other side of the barricades, and then those that are wrestling like actually walk down. I don't know if that's something that's been going on that I just haven't caught, but I was like, interesting, because I definitely thought if you're bringing out AOP, right, you're gonna have the Final Testament with you out there as well, right? You're gonna have Karrion Kross, you're gonna have Scarlett, like you're gonna have them out there with you, right? And if you're bringing out the Street Profits, you're gonna have B-Fab and Bobby Lashley out there, right? So it's like, but they all kind of just stopped right there and just. So it's an interesting creative thing, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, hold on, Dan. I gotta get ready. Here we go.
The wise man made a promise.
The wise man made a promise, Dan. I think I would be your wise man.
Has kept his word.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's what I am, a man of my word.
Yeah, tribal chief, man of his word, Dan.
No bloodline. Other than the wise man.
Well, don't forget, I'm on like a 10-second delay from you.
So. Oh, that's right, you steal cable. forgot that.
I said when
Um,
Steel cable.
so I,
It's definitely not true. And don't be hypocritical because you were a subscriber for a while too.
To acknowledge me.
you mean I was working for one side or the other? Sure. Um, look at you going on a shoot already. This is why we can't get through a podcast episode. So what are we expecting from this? Let's talk about that. Because I just did a quick rundown of SmackDown. That was good. So what are you expecting?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because what am I expecting? I actually don't know what to expect. I don't think it gets physical here. I think you were thinking it gets physical here. Oh, there's Cody on the screen.
But don't be scared. You're still in pre-tournament.
Do you think we get a smack?
Well, after the last few weeks, like it's been all about
Rock
in him.
the
So,
final
like,
boss.
Right. So there's
the final boss. So
that part kind of gets. I'm like interested because what I'm hoping for is that they find a way to kind of get this back to Cody versus Roman being a focus a little bit, right? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there will be some physicality, but really it's been Rock and Cody trading barbs. So like Roman needs to kind of reestablish himself, right? Like,
well,
Roman's the tribal chief, but Rock's the final boss. So what are we doing here? You know?
well, and this kind of has to be when I think for this to get over and to get it back, Roman has to cut a kind of promo that he cut the first time on Cody, right? When he talked about how Cody's dad was always his favorite. And Cody's dad said he wished he had a son like Roman, right? Like that type of promo. Like that personal promo. Because if they just go out here, Roman says, you have to acknowledge me, and then they just talk about The Rock, it's kind of like, okay, is this a triple threat then? Like, is this what we're doing? Like, what are we... Like, yeah, I'm hoping for at least a smack. I think the smacks continue, right? Do you think Bloodline is not there at all?
No, I tend to think they will be, right? That's kind of been their MO, right? Like, you know, they attacked on Raw when they weren't supposed to, right? Like,
yeah.
I think they're there.
Yeah, I think at least Solo's there.
Well, I think Jimmy would be there too, and then Jay can be there, right? Like, you know.
So do you think they
and take out Jimmy?
So that's a good point. Do you think they use this to get it back on track for Cody and Roman, or do you think they use this to propel the Usos against each other?
I think they do it to try to get us back on track with Rhodey. My whole dog's name. I think they do it to get them a little bit back on track.
Boo! Stupid song. Boo! I'm just kidding.
Oh, please. I think it's done for sure to get them back on track a little bit. I don't think it's. I think they know they need to do that, right?
The crowd's hot for him. You gotta do the knock, Dan.
Well, I'm behind, so I haven't even gotten to the low yet.
That's right, you got LimeWire cable. yeah. Or what did they like rebrand as a music platform, but it was originally to download stuff illegally? Shazam. So they brought back Shazam just to like record songs when you're out in the store to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on this, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure on this promo. right? Like, because like The Rock calling himself the final boss over the past however many weeks got people thinking, does Cody not win, but he takes the title from The Rock? Like, that would be wild. And I know I posed that thought to you, and it's been kind of like sitting in the back of your brain of like, is this possible? Like, I just feel like he's been. I don't feel like The Rock does, or Jesus, sorry, sounded like I had an IQ of 25 there. Let me start that over. I feel like when The Rock does something, everything has a use, right? And I think that final boss is a use. Like, I think that. Like, I think. Like, does that mean that he's the final boss for Cody? Then Reigns? So then is that The Rock basically telling us Rock's going to take the pin? Night one, and then it's Cody versus Roman? Is that the final boss? Or is it like. Cody gets beat both nights. He can't challenge Roman, but then Roman has an issue with The Rock calling himself the final boss and Roman being the tribal chief. So do we get that Rock Reigns? Rock takes the title. Reigns goes away for a bit. Cody takes the title from Rock at Madison Square Garden, where they took it from his dad. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm here by myself.
Yeah.
and it's starting to cause me some doubt. Like, it is starting to cause me some doubt now. Because now I'm getting, like... Because, like, they have to do this perfectly, right? Like, they can't just let this be a blunder. Right?
No, they definitely can't. But, I mean... I don't know. I can't see it. I know you're thinking it, and it's not that it doesn't make sense in a way. I just can't see it.
Yeah, it's probably the fact that I have a negative mindset when it comes to all this stuff. But, like... Well, because I was so pissed off from last year's WrestleMania. Like...
Hear me out.
Right.
From my perspective, you're not fit for this job. You're not fit to be on top. You're not fit to be
I don't know.
the face of this company because you're an idiot. You're out here thinking with your heart, thinking everybody's got the best out for you. Nobody cares. You better start thinking.
I don't know. I
Man,
just...
I mean, let's just look at what you've done in the past month or so. You've aligned yourself with my little brother, Seth Rollins. And there's all kinds
It's weird Rock calling
of
Seth Rollins his
his
little brother.
Where was Seth at? Was he in traffic?
So, I don't know. Like, I just... Like, there's a lot of pressure on this promo, I feel like.
What happened? Because
But then we get Punk and Rock Monday.
What did he say? He's gonna be your shield.
Yes, I did see.
So, like,
I did
that's
see the
huge.
Punk thing.
That's
You
huge.
understand I was in the shield with him, right?
So do you think we see just Punk backstage, or do you think they let Punk come out and talk?
No, I don't think they advertise him without some sort of like moment on the show. I mean, I guess it could be backstage, but like I don't think it'll be backstage. I think they let him walk out, they let him get the pop, they let him do a little promo. You know, maybe they do something with Drew.
And that's why I think that you're a fool. Plain and simple.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, it's... I don't know.
Did you ask me if I remembered the Shield? Because I think we all remembered the Shield. You guys were unstoppable. You guys, matter of fact, were undefeated. Let me ask you something.
I don't know. I just...
Do you remember the first team that did beat the Shield? I'll give you a hint. The last name was Rhodes. And I appreciate this education.
Like, it's just... It's interesting, right? Like, it's like...
That you're dropping on me. I don't know if I wore them. Yeah, I did. I've got my bullet cufflinks on tonight, so I'm certainly not unfamiliar with factions, betrayal, all that good stuff while I was off doing something. I mean, but this isn't a faction you're
So,
talking about. The Bloodline's
let
not a
me just
faction.
get this out there. I know you're a little bit behind.
I
Cody,
don't have the volume on anyway because it come over the microphone, so I can't hear
So
what they're
can
saying.
I trust
Cody said he had his
freaking
bullet
Rollins?
cufflinks on, so he's used to a faction, a stable,
I didn't
and
even think to do that.
coming from behind.
Do you guys
So it's
think
like,
I can trust Seth freaking Rollins?
that's weird. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't expect WWE to allow that, right?
Seth
Yeah.
Rollins.
Yeah. Well, Hunter's smart, right?
He might hate my guts. I don't think you expected that. You might
Yeah.
be right. He might hate my guts, but I know one thing. He hates you even more.
Ooh.
And I'll see your situation, and I'll raise you another. Can I trust Seth Rollins? Roman, can you trust your partner at WrestleMania?
Uh-oh, throwing doubt in there. Can Roman trust his partner at WrestleMania?
Can
Planting
you
the doubt,
trust
planting the seed.
The Rock?
And he's gonna sprinkle some water on it then. Sprinkle.
I think we're all
Yes.
perhaps slightly confused in the pantheon that is the bloodline. Who is really in charge? Is it the tribal chief? Or is it the final boss?
That's all. Didn't you just say that to him? But the other way around? Is that all you got? This is what I'm talking about here. Spoken and spun like a true politician. I mean, what we out here do? You out here running for governor? Hey, anybody got a kid that needs to be kissed? Do you want an autograph? Because Cody will pull your kid out here and make him a part of his entrance. Because
Roman's still good, man. He's still good on the mic. Like, it's... He just asked Cody if he's running for governor, and asked anybody in the stands to give their kid up so Cody can use them for part of the entrance. Yeah, I mean...
And nothing ever comes to fruition. And you want to know why? Because you're number two.
Oh, call Cody a number two.
No. I mean that with respect. You all would
But a respectful number two.
But you're not even
As I
close.
say.
You're the greatest number two of all
I
time.
was like, well,
But that's all you will ever be is number two.
He calls him the best
Because I'm number one
number two of all time.
forever.
And Roman calls himself number one forever.
That's true. The best number two of all time? I don't know.
No, Dan, that's you.
That'll be a good. Hey, that'll be a good. We should have that debate on a future pod. Who's the best number two in wrestling ever?
Well, but then what are you talking about? Like, are you talking about tag matches? Are you talking about, like...
Well, you could be talking about tag teams, or you could be talking about like a guy, that was clearly like second to the bigger stars. So if you want to talk like Jannetty, was Jannetty the best number two with helping Michaels like get to where he got to at some point, or do you want to talk about like
of a generation, the biggest
if you
superstar
looked at
to
Hall
come
and
along, the
Nash,
biggest
was
pro
Nash
wrestling star. We're talking
or Hall a
Bruno,
number
we're
two?
talking
Right.
Well, can you say...
we're talking Rock,
Can you say...
we're talking Austin, we're talking
Can you say that Nash was number two for a period of time to Michaels?
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. You took it right out of my mouth. Like Diesel, he was a number two to Michaels, and then he was the second guy in with Hall and Nash, right? Like, could you make that argument? I'm trying to think of other guys. I mean, what about Brutus, as Eric would say, Brutus, the effing barber beefcake?
What about...
Followed Hogan around forever.
What about China?
China, Virgil.
What about Hunter at that time, right?
Yeah, Hunter for a while too, right? Like, you know,
that you've held for all this time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
Arn Anderson, right? With Ric Flair, Arn Anderson was his number 2 forever.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
luck at WrestleMania.
come on, throw smack. Throw smack. I love how Roman always dresses like he just got done playing 3-on-3
Yeah.
at an LA Fitness.
Yeah.
Oh, he wouldn't shake Cody's hand, but he shakes Heyman's hand. And then, did you catch the
I haven't seen it yet.
ECW sign? There's an ECW sign right behind the stairs. It said
Oh,
EC.
and that guy's wearing that jersey too.
Yeah. Show the sign. They just cut it right. Son of. Oh, ECW. Heyman's the best. Yes, yes, thank you. Oh, that was stupid. I was hoping for something else.
So there's still a couple of minutes left here. So is this really how we're ending?
Yeah, we got 5 left, right?
Right, like he's just walking out and that's it? Come on. Or is the Bloodline going to attack Cody from behind?
There comes. Yeah, you called it. Here comes Solo.
Words have been spoken, now blood must be shed.
Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso surrounding ringside. And let's be honest, the American Nightmare is dead to
Oh, here
rights.
comes. I'm just getting to see Jimmy too.
Yeah, they're just kind of staring at him right now. Up, Solo just hopped the wall.
The soulless eyes of Solo Sikoa and that gleeful grin.
So who's running in? Jimmy, Seth? I mean Jay, Seth, or both?
For years here in
Either.
WWE.
The Sharks have begun
Pharaoh.
the circle.
They're gonna let Pharaoh off the bus. No, they're just. So right now they're just standing by
To Cody's credit, he is still
Roman right now.
Just reminding him that they're there. You know that you're not. It's not going to be that easy for you.
Cody's not a runner. That might be his biggest fault. Just over 2.
And then Cody's just standing there staring at him.
Biggest weekend of his life.
Oh, and then there's Jace standing at the stairs. And there's Seth standing out there in a black hoodie.
Two can play a black game.
We gonna get this like triple 3 versus 3 before WrestleMania?
Well, Seth Rollins stole Eddie Murphy's outfit, so that red leather suit.
And there's
The tables have turned.
so this. I like this ending part of it of like them
I-
reminding like, look, you guys aren't the only ones that can
Yeah, to have some
Show up.
weight to throw around.
right and show up to support a guy or whatever.
WrestleMania Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday. Let's go, Philly.
I just wanted a better promo.
Yeah,
I just wanted, because with all the shots that The Rock and Cody have been taking at each other, I just want a better promo. Like, just let it all. Like, you already let The Rock swear in an Instagram video that was 22 minutes long. Like, just let these guys go. You're, what, 2 weeks out from WrestleMania? Let them go. Say, keep it somewhat within the lines, but say what you gotta say. Uh-oh, here comes the National Desk. I gotta turn this off before an insurrection in my house starts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of... Because I get it. Like, so they put the 3-on-3, and they kind of turned it back to brother versus brother, Roman, Cody, and Seth.
Right.
They could have had The Rock show up on top of the ramp, right? Like,
Could have, but probably not in town, right?
well, or just... And he could have just showed up himself and not told Roman about it and just have him stand there for a bit, right? Like...
Yeah.
And then it's the other thing that takes tension away from Roman, which could be something he complains about at a later date in a promo. Like,
Right.
I told you I have this, and you keep doing this, right? Like, but like, have we seen Roman give a promo that could cut into The Rock? Like, just any of his promos throughout his career? The only one I can think of is that promo that he did against Cody the last time he fought him. That's it. That's the only one. But then...
Yeah, and I still don't know if that's enough against The Rock.
Right, so it's like... Is it just going to be one-sided then? Like, obviously, we're going to have to wait to a future date to see that, but... So... But, yeah, pretty good episode of SmackDown. Got what we kind of expected at the end, right? I just hope the promos were a little bit better because there's been so much said already that I wanted some heat to bring it back. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, let's get there, right?
Yes.
Like, and if there's any truth
We're
to
almost
this,
there.
yeah, and if there's any truth to this, Meltzer reports the belief right now is that Cena, Stone Cold, and The Undertaker will have something in the capacity at WrestleMania. Just want to end the pod like that with Uncle Dave, which...
Yeah.
I think...
I mean, that makes sense.
Cena already said that like 3 weeks ago. He's just being waited to told what to do. So, I'm all for it. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to discuss, Dan, on this Botched Wrestling podcast? 20-ish something?
No, I've been watching. I haven't gotten through as many WrestleManias as I thought. It's been busy during the day, so but
I've only got
a few.
through 2 of them. I've been terrible.
I've watched 1, 2, and 3. That's it. Man, what a difference! 1 and 2, like 1 and 2. It's just crazy because they were basically just like really long regular shows. I mean, there's the things I'm noticing that are just so funny and so different, and obviously because it was so long ago, 40 years, right?
How old are you?
Not 42.
Okay, never mind. Go on.
Not a lot of
Color?
no, there's plenty of that.
Whoa, plenty of that. Oh, we're getting canceled.
Not a lot of theme music.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Like Hogan, and a couple others. That was it. Not the ring announcing. WrestleMania 2 was like the theme of WrestleMania 2 was how many celebrity guests could we get involved? They had celebrity ring announcers, they had celebrity referees, like for a battle royal, they had celebrity commentator. Like Vince McMahon was commentating with, I can't even remember the actress's name, but she was terrible at commentating. And they just did a ton of video packages, and it was very like jumbled or whatever. And I think I texted you, Mean Gene sang the national anthem or whatever, like, which was just kind of funny for WrestleMania 1.
Which is hysterical. I love that.
There was a battle royal in WrestleMania 2, and there were like 5 wrestlers in it. The rest of them were like football players.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, it was just crazy. And actually, it was the wrestlers were Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, Bret Hart, and Jim Neidhart as a team were in there, right? They weren't even wearing pink and black yet. They were the Hart Foundation, but they were wearing blue and black. And then there was who was the other one in there? An older guy, just like a legend. Bruno Sammartino. It was Bruno Sammartino who was in there, and he was almost like just kind of like thrown in. So it's been fun to watch him for sure, and it'll get better as I get a little bit further along. But it's just so funny how different they are, how absolutely different they are.
Yeah, but it's just cool to go back and watch them, right? I watched the final one that was on one night with the pre-show. It was like 7.5 hours.
Yeah, so these ones have been like 2.5 to 3 hours. But the Roddy Piper Mr. T boxing match was hilarious to watch, you know. So it was pretty good though.
So, just to end this podcast, do you know what Vince McMahon wanted to call WrestleMania?
I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm drawing a blank on what it is.
He wanted to call...
I hope it wasn't Rumblemania, because we know somebody who called it Rumblemania.
Yeah. What a loser.
What a loser, for sure.
McMahon wanted to call the event the Colossal Tussle.
Oh, yes, I have heard that before. I think Chris Pritchard talked about that.
Do you know who gave him WrestleMania?
No.
WWE legendary ring announcer Howard Finkel.
Howard?
The play off of Beatlemania.
Beatlemania. Yeah, I guess timing-wise that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, within 2 weeks, we'll be watching the Colossal Tussle.
Colossal Tussle. That's interesting.
He's so stupid. Like, I hope when he said that, people were like, you're not serious, right? Like, that's so dumb. But, yeah. So, that's Botched Wrestling Podcast 20-ish something. There'll be 2 episodes put onto our YouTube channel this weekend, I promise. I'll be editing tomorrow, and I'll have them up, and they'll be ready to go for you to catch up with us. Please like, comment, subscribe, if you can, if you do. If you don't, whatever. It happens. And also, Dan, we know where Princess Kate has been, so all's good in the world.
Well, sort of. Not all is good with her, unfortunately.
I thought they threw it in a dungeon, so I'm glad she's out and about where...
Yeah, I guess good she's alive.
Speedy recovery, Princess, because they don't have the best of luck with princesses over there. You know what I mean? So, okay. On that note, adios, everybody.
Goodbye.